Sorry, you can get around fight first.
Get around
you can kind of negate fight
so
first.
you can charge with your unit, technically into a fights first unit, and not have them go first.
You've discovered this at exactly the right time where I've just bought my first ever fights first leader. So I'm glad you found this. Thank you, James.
This is why.
yeah. Oh, Callum's got a fights first model. Surely
How
it's
can
got
I
to be.
break
So he has a possible threat, and now wants to nullify it.
There's got to be a way around this somehow.
No, it's useful though, because obviously if you do have fights first models, you can see how this will, be how to potentially avoid it. So yeah, I mean, I'm half tempted to go off topic with Drukari, but I won't. I'll stay on course.
Try and stay on course.
So essentially, the way that this works, and I may get this slightly wrong.
Okay, let's put it out.
But the idea is that when you charge in, when you make that charge roll, you have to, if you can, put each model base to base. Now, you can choose which order to do that in.
Okay.
So essentially, you can already manipulate which models go where. Now, once you can no longer go base to base with the model, you then only have to end closer.
Okay. So if this is during the piling part.
This is the charge phase.
Okay, this is part of the charge phase.
Yeah. And this is where it's going to get really difficult to follow, but I'll try to do it as best I can. So you charge in. So you roll, say, a 6. Each model moves up to 6, and if they can end base to base, they have to end base to base. So if you roll high and you're 2 inches away,
if they're 6 inches away and you've rolled a 10,
that you have no choice. You have to put as many base to base. However, you can manipulate this. Each of those base to base, you can put slightly.
I understand. Yeah, in real janky angles that kind of doesn't give you very much room.
Yeah, so there's not enough to fit another model in and whatnot. So the only exception is that you have to put those models in base to base. Once you've done that, you then have the option to move the rest of them. They must end closer to them, but you can, it's just 8 must end closer.
You must end closer. Doesn't have to be base to base with your
and it doesn't
units.
have to be the maximum move. It can just be 1 millimeter. Right. Now the piling step, which is when you activate to fight, this happens. When this happens, it's model based. So a model in that unit must, and the word is must, move towards the closest enemy model.
Okay. Each model in that unit must move towards the closest enemy model.
So if you've charged a unit on the left, and there's a model that during that charge phase didn't make it into base-to-base contact or in a place where it can fight that unit that you charged, but you did move closer, but you're still closer to this other unit, not in engagement range, but closer. Okay. When that model piles in, it piles into that unit, the unit that you did not charge.
Right. Okay. So this requires 2 opponent units being quite close to each other.
Potentially,
but you've ended your charge closer to a unit that's not currently in combat.
Yeah, some of the models in your unit, in which case, they then move in, they pile in, and because you've already activated and negated the whole fights first sequence, so the fights first sequence activates before you even get to activate, they don't get to activate until you've finished that procedure. So you finish your turn, and then if at that point they then have models left, they can then activate and fight you back.
Wow. It's very situational, I think. Would you say it's situational, or do you think that's something you could pull off most times? You could
certainly set it up. Obviously, some of the difficulties would be things like your dice roll. So say, for example, with the high dice rolls, but there's obviously ways to manipulate that process. Okay. And I've seen examples where, they were like 10 inches apart and they still managed to charge the ones that they...
Wow. And so